Well, the wig is finally off and back where, you know, I guess you could say it belongs. And yeah, I know it's kind of crooked. I can't really get it straight, but oh, this feels a lot better. I did not like all that hair. I like no hair. It feels so much better not having hair. I'll tell you that. Ugh, I just once you go bald, you'll never go back. But once you go short, you'll never go back. At least my personal opinion. So okay, so now on to just the last bits and whatnot. So also, I just need to mention something here. These entities have the ability to easily leave their physical bodies, but along with that, they have the ability to speak telepathically. And they use this ability to determine if someone, a human, etc., is evolved. Just as human beings have seen those who can speak as more. Okay, and this is what happens. Okay, so just as human beings, human beings have seen those who can speak, like I'm speaking to you right now, as more evolved. We see ourselves as more evolved than like a bird, or a cat. Even though they make noise, we consider them not speaking, which is rather odd because they clearly are speaking. But we consider them not speaking because they're not speaking any of the world's languages. We consider them less evolved because they don't have hands and thumbs and because they don't speak the same language that we do, which is odd and interesting, but there you go. So just as human beings have seen those who can speak as more evolved than those who, and those who have a system of writing as more evolved and the ability to read as more evolved, so too these underground reptiles, these Vrill, these NPC players, whatever you want to call them, aliens, they determine whether or not we, us actual humans, are evolved. And the way that they determine that is whether or not we can speak telepathically and whether or not we can, I don't know how to call it, use spirit, use soul, use electromagnetism, whatever you want, to manipulate things and manipulate our environment. So, but they cut that off from us. So they cut us off, and then they say that we're unevolved because they cut us off. And not only that, but we might be actually speaking telepathically in a whole nother wavelength that they haven't encountered yet and they don't even know about. So there's that too. So interesting how they won't consider that. So just as human beings have seen those who can speak as more evolved and those who have a system of writing and the ability to read as more evolved, so too these underground reptiles, these Vrill, determine whether or not we, us actual humans, are evolved. I mean, just look at how we have classified the animals versus plants. We see animals as more evolved because they have some kind of ability to speak, but we see them as far less evolved as us because they cannot speak our language. And even today, we see original inhabitants of an area as less evolved because they do not have the ability to read or write on, in any manner like the educated among us do. In fact, even today, even today, if someone has less education, we wrongly, just flat out and incorrectly, see them as not nearly as intelligent and ergo less evolved and unable to understand certain concepts, which is nuts and flat out wrong. But there you go. In society today, this is how humans are treating each other. So when we're dealing with these Vrill, these NPC players, these reptiles, these things, since we cannot speak to them in their manner, which is telepathically, because it is not in our physical makeup to be able to do such, even if we had this ability in the past, which I'm sure we did have, it has been purposely bred out of us, cut out of us, literally, what have you, because worldwide humans have been the slave race. We have been enslaved. This is crystal clear in our religion and governments. The fact that we have a penal system, it all proves that. The very idea of punishment and reward is a slave concept. The very idea of punishment and reward is a slave concept. And I know that there are a whole lot of people that'll get upset about this, but this is the truth. So remember that. Those who are not slaves have no concept of punishment or their actions being controlled at all. They see their actions, no matter how heinous, no matter how horrible, as good, quote unquote good, and they annihilate anything or anyone that tells them no, or even tries to tell them no. Period. You never tell a Vrill or an underground reptile or an NPC player no, N-O. They will destroy you for that. Period. But sorry, this is far off my point. Since we cannot speak telepathically, these Vrills see us as less than them. And in being less than, instead of having to protect or care for us, they instead see us as something to be used or killed off or shoved aside. They see us as you would see a carrot, or at best a pet dog, maybe a beloved flower, or even a piece of jewelry, something to be used for their enjoyment. And that brings me to the next point. Why are things the way they are? I was told that this, the surface of the earth, or Terra, is an ultimate video game. Now I couldn't figure this out. Until I got this. Now think of this. You live in a society in the center of a planet. The air is still, it's peaceful, it's happy and wonderful. No one works, and all they have is free time. Those who are enslaved, their world is work. This is another point to remember. The enslaved are told no, punished constantly, but punished mainly, and made to work. In fact, whole societies are built on and off of the work and the value, quote unquote, value of their work. Even if that hard work is quickly torn down, even after 50 to 100 years, if it's removed, then guess what? All that hard work is for nothing, period. Realize this. So, and it's going all over in the line of topics, and it is getting rambly, but anyway, now some would have no reason to leave this. They like the peace, they like the stillness and serenity. So I'm just going to go back to the top here. So now, think of this. You live in a society in the center of a planet. The air is still, it's peaceful, it's happy and wonderful. No one works, and all they have is free time. Now, some would have no reason to leave this. They like the peace. They like the stillness and serenity. You're happy. Everyone else is happy. There's no fighting. In fact, the crankiness that you feel, there's no ways to be rid of that. And if you are ever depressed, irritated, etc., you can freely and easily explore that and the underlying reasons for it and remove whatever it is that is causing such negative emotions. All right. But if you live for an extremely long time, say after 200 to 500 years or so of nothing ever happening, some might want to leave, maybe even take a vacation, at least do something more, quote, exciting, unquote, or different at least. And as we all know, people who, for whatever reason, see a weekend bender as the best thing ever, and instead of leaving it, recovering and going back to their families and normal lives, they decide to stay and turn that weekend bender into a lifestyle instead. But remember, if there is no, quote, no, unquote, or even concept of no, stop, no more, in their society, then this decision, made consciously and purposely, or not decided on at all, instead something that they slipped into, something that just happened, this is seen as okay and morally fine and not corrupt, along with all the extremely nefarious things that you can get into on these, quote, Roman holidays, unquote, as I've heard them once called. So, say that there's some, I was told that this planet is the ultimate video game, quote unquote, which means that they're not physical. They're able to leave their physical bodies and be put into a human looking body. Literally, that is what they do. And then they wander around on the surface of the earth as a human, quote unquote. But what they're doing is they're playing a video game to them. So they go on these massive weekend benders, drinking, having sex, doing all kinds of, it's literally Grand Theft Auto, the Vice City, the game. Ever heard of Grand Theft Auto, the video game? It is like that. It is the dead stamp same thing. You can steal cars, you can kill people, you can do whatever the heck you want. And they get away with it. Literally. There was even a show, what was it? I actually saw the old 70s movie just recently. And it is literally like that old 70s movie. I got to cut this off, so I'll go and try to find the name of that 70s movie. So